An ISRO launch will soon be carrying a satellite with payload designed at IITM. And you guys in the Bay Area should be interested in this. Here to tell you more, we have Professor Harishankar Ramachandran from Electrical Engineering Department.
Good afternoon. This talk should really be given by the students, since they are the ones who have worked very hard for 5 years to make it happen. But since they are all on vacation, I'll be giving it in their place. So the IIT Madras satellite project was a student idea. And in something like 2008, they came up with the idea that there should be some big project that students should get involved in and that they should carry out by themselves. Of course, with some faculty mentoring, but it should be student driven and it should be something substantial. And they fixed on this because they came up with some physics ideas that would be worth doing, and the putting a satellite in space would be very visible and would make all the students quite involved in the whole activity. So the IIT Madras satellite is going to be a small one. It's what is known as a nano satellite, but small satellites wise, this is actually quite a large satellite, 15 kgs, and it will require about 7 watts of power to run. The satellite will go on what is known as a low Earth orbit, and that means it's below the ionosphere. It will be launched by one of ISRO's satellites, and we hope that it will happen in the next 2 years. So what is the purpose? First of all, I think you are all aware that when we do our curriculum, we focus a little too much on individual disciplines, whereas something like the satellite requires every student working in it to know that you can't just be an electrical engineer or just a mechanical engineer. You have to work with all the engineerings. So it's a complex interdisciplinary project. And secondly, a bigger problem was there's a long-term project. The residence of a student in IIT Madras is 4 years if it's undergraduate, and even less if it's MTech. So a project that lasts longer than a student generation requires students to hand off to students. And that was the biggest challenge, I think, in this project. And it was successfully handled by the senior students, which makes us hope that further such long-term projects are possible, taken up by the students. Of course, faculty can do it, but here it was students driving the whole process. Now, this is not the first satellite that's been put up by Indian universities, but we have a very poor track record in putting up satellites. If you look at them, all of them failed. And the problem is that it's easy to make things work on a desktop, but when you put it up there and something goes wrong, you cannot correct it. So the quality control required to put up a satellite is much, much higher. And students, at least Indian students, have not yet managed to meet it. So you can see different kinds of issues: thermal issues, communication failed, power system failed, and we don't even know what went wrong here. And this is perhaps the biggest problem because it may hit us. IIT Bombay built the satellite. As far as we know, it's a good design. But then the students graduated. And there is no one now to push it for the final launch. So it's one of our challenges to keep this going till the satellite goes up and we are able to get data from it. So what is the purpose of the satellite? The idea that the satellite is built for is not something that we came up with. It's in the literature. It's known that earthquakes cause pressure buildup deep inside, and one of the results of this pressure buildup is electromagnetic fluctuations up to about 1 kilohertz, sub-hertz to 1 kilohertz radiation, which happens to have such long wavelengths that they connect to the ionosphere and shake the magnetic fields of the ionosphere. The result is that the charged particles that are there resonantly interact with this wave, and some of them precipitate. And the purpose of the satellite is to look at these precipitated particles. So you can see the picture here. These are the charged particles that are trapped. The ionosphere starts around 900 kilometers above the Earth, and the particles will not be seen if the satellite goes below. But when the magnetic field is shaken, the particles come lower, and then you start a satellite that travels on this orbit will collect information. Now we could have actually put a satellite up here and we would see charged particles all the time, but then that won't tell us anything about whether the magnetic field is being shaken or not. So by putting it below the ionosphere, we can get particle bursts which will tell us it's a precursor. It happens up to a day ahead of an earthquake, whether an earthquake might happen. The building of a satellite, of course, is interdisciplinary. It involves a lot of different subsystems, and I'm only going to talk about this particular system, the payload. The payload is basically a proton and electron energy counter, and it has a dielectric window through which particles can come in and they get converted into detectable electronic signals which are then recorded. So there's a lot of physics that went in, and one of our students did such a good job in it that he took the CERN software and improved it, and CERN has now taken it back and incorporated some of those changes. So they've been very effective in working on the satellite project. The kind of particles they are observing is 10 to 100 MeV protons, 1 to 10 MeV electrons. The energy chosen, because these are the energy particles that will interact with 1 Hertz kind of shaking of the ionosphere. The other details don't matter, but this is what was chosen for the specs of the scintillator. Now, one interesting thing is that the previous satellite of this type that was sent up was a SAMPEX. It was very small, and because it was very small, the fluctuations in its readings were so great that you could not tell whether a signal was significant or not, or purely noise. We will be sending up a satellite with much larger window, so much so our sensitivity is far higher than SAMPEX, and we will be able to more clearly pin down whether this is a good diagnostic for earthquakes or not. Just to show you, this is what the satellite looks like. Some of the parts have been built, and this is where the payload will sit. So the antennas are here. This is the communications board, and these are the communication blocks. And this is the part of the system that measures the magnetic field, and we have an attitude control system here, ADCS, which will stabilize the satellite by using torque rods. So this is a very complex system, and this was our schedule as of the board meeting, which was just a few months ago. You can see the date sits in the middle of 2013, and we were hoping to have, by the end of the year, finished our development model and gone into integration. But then something happened. The students went to Japan and showed their design, and they realized they had more work to do than they realized. So they have shifted the timeline a bit. The line has shifted to the end of the year, but the work has shifted by 4-5 months. And this is really the current timeline we have. We will expect to finish our development model by April. Meantime, we should start already on the serious integration model and then the qualification model, which is what will decide that the package is ready, the satellite is ready to be launched. Our budget is rather large. The reason why it's large is, for one thing, the satellite is a big one. But the other is that we did not want to cut any corners. The previous university efforts all failed. And so there's no point in using substandard equipment and then having a satellite that does nothing when it goes up. So we have so far got about 84 lakhs, and overall we will require about 3 crores. And it's a lot of money, and we are trying different routes, including of course alumni, for funding. Right now you can see that we are in the development area, we are almost okay. We require only a little money for the integration model itself, but we need to get started on doing the next higher quality payload version. And unless we start now, we can't meet the deadline for the next phase. So that is where we need money right now. So to summarize, this is really where the satellite project stands out. We have, it says 30 plus, but it's more like 50 students have interacted on this project. There are students who joined 5 years ago, who finished, who graduated and stayed back because they wanted to see this satellite project happen. Basically, I think it started with 2 male students and 1 female student. The girl has graduated and gone to a foreign university, but the 2 others have stayed back and are helping us to finish. There are a large number of BTech and MTech projects that have spun out of this, and we have also had papers in international conferences. This number is less, it's more like 6 papers now. So I think it's a very effective means by which students are learning how projects happen. And we have had a lot of interaction with other institutions as well. ISRO, TIFR, York University, EPFL, and now I should add some American universities because they are also interested in the data we will produce. Thank you.
Professor, see, the plate boundaries are global. They cover the entire globe. So if your objective has to be realized, it is necessary for your satellite to have a polar orbit and no other orbit.
Actually,
Has been considered.
yes.
If you don't do that, chances of success are get limited.
Actually,
You have to cover the whole globe.
we have done a study of what kind of orbit it should be,
Yeah.
and polar is good, but actually ideal is about 60 degrees, because it turns out that that is the one that captures most, not polar. But we have to take what we get. Ultimately, when you put up that satellite,
Problem of polar orbit from ISRO.
no,
Because they are
ISRO
used to launching.
ISRO
they
is
are used
very
to launch-
happy sending up a polar orbit.
Yeah.
You would prefer a more tilted orbit. But polar orbit is 80% efficient.
See,
It's okay.
even the plate boundaries, if you look at it, they cover the Antarctic and Arctic regions also. So your 60 degrees, during the life and duration of the satellite, this orbit has the risk that you may not be able to capture pre-earthquake conditions.
Well, I've not gone into the technical problems. See, one of the things is the satellite has to point along the magnetic field. And as you go over the pole, the magnetic field direction changes very quickly. And our torque rods don't have enough power because you have only 7 watts of power you can use. So it takes 10 minutes to reorient the satellite. So satellite cannot effectively capture information over the pole. So even if we go over the pole, we have to throw away that data.
I'm only concerned, I agree
Yeah.
with what you say, but concerned about missing earthquakes during the life of the satellite. You may miss certain
No, it's a
earthquakes.
fair statement.
The students who stayed on and completed the project, I truly wish to commend them. It's remarkable, astounding. Good job.